Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we've got a great show today, but before we start, I want to remind people that our book, Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating, written by my fiance, Dr. Frank Powers, and me, is now available on Amazon. Our book is filled with tips and tools for those of you like me who are looking for companionship as an antidote for loneliness, the #1 mental health issue for seniors. All of the proceeds go to the Open to Hope Foundation with the mission of helping people find hope after loss. And today we are going to talk about widows helping widows, which is dear to my heart, as Heidi's dad, Phil, passed away 3 years ago. And it's been a journey, and we're going to be interested in hearing about another lady's journey today. Heidi, would you like to introduce her?
Sure. I'd just like to say it's been a journey, and it was also the inspiration for your new book.
Yes.
And so we are going to talk today about widows helping widows, which is also near and dear to your heart, Mom, with a guest that has been on our cable show. So you can Google Open to Hope and find her there also. And her name is Aliza Marlin. Aliza, as I said, is a widow, and she was a musical theater actor in New York City, where she lives. She met her husband, Gary, a theatrical electrician for Broadway. She serves on the Emeritus Board of the Adult Congenital Heart Association. She is a GEM volunteer with the W Connection. And the W Connection, as you know, Mom, is a national nonprofit of widows helping widows rebuild their lives. So welcome to our podcast, Aliza.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and so nice to see you all again.
Well, talk to us about your loss of Gary and your journey a little bit.
Sure. Gary died very suddenly in 2018. He was a theatrical stagehand and had gone to Chicago to do a pre-Broadway tryout of a musical. I spoke to him. He got there one day. I spoke to him on his first day of work. He had a great day. He last thing he said to me was, "I need my hands," because he was in the grocery store and picking up some food. And then the next morning, I got a call from one of his coworkers saying, "Have you heard from him this morning?" And I hadn't. And he had passed away overnight in the hotel room. And myself and his family had to fly out there. No indication, nothing was wrong. There was no stress from the job, no injury or anything like that, just something very random and unexpected. And at 49, just a month, 2 months short of my 50th birthday, I was a widow. I was without this person that I had thought I was going to be with, I had expected to be with for the rest of my life. And I think the big attitude for me was that he also wasn't going to get to have the rest of our lives together. It wasn't just me that was in this enormous state of loss, but this person who was supposed to get all of this time was not going to have it now either.
What happened with you and how were you?
Well, that's what's really interesting, is that at 49, I didn't know anybody who had lost their partner. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do, right? You can only look to your parents for their experience with their parents. And how do you create it? What do you do for a funeral? And had you ever really talked about it? And the first few weeks were very much like, what would he want? And how can I best make whatever dreams I can make come true for him come true right now? And then his entire family, they really surrounded me, and my family really surrounded me. And it was this little bubble that I was in for a long time of love and support and shock, mm-hmm. Right? And then this other attitude of, well, I'm the one who's suffering the worst loss of them all. It took me a lot of time to realize that there are other people who really miss him and were profoundly affected in very different ways that I don't understand, just like they won't understand my loss. So I went looking for support of people who understood, who could speak this strange new language that I was being forced to learn. So I was really looking for a support group because I wanted to be with other people.
Aliza, and I'm thinking you've lost your community. You're looking for a new community because you've lost your identity. You were a couple. You were part of a couple.
That's right. I was kind of like divested of my world, right? I do remember just before he left, sitting down on his lap and looking out the window and saying, I am so happy. And I thought, you know what? I curse myself, and that sits inside my head now. And so all these things come up. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm shocked. I have a million things on a list that I don't want to tackle any of them. And now I just need somebody else to be with me, to sit. And that person who would normally sit and be with me, you know, we don't have to talk, is gone. So you're right, Heidi, you have to find somebody. You have to like find something around you. I called a few therapists, and one therapist said, yeah, I have a group. It's not right for you. And she said, you know, they were very honest. She said, I think you should look at this organization. You can find it online, the W Connection. I Googled it, I found it, and it was, by the time I was really looking for a place, I think it was the beginning of December. So 4 months.
Okay, so 4 months, you're really ready to get out and.
I was ready to seek something. And at the time, the W Connection, you know, I read about it online, but I needed to be with other people. I needed to see people's faces in person and be angry or be upset in a very safe spot with other people. And at the time, the W Connection had in-person meetings. There were these women at different levels of grief, right? Some had lost their partners 10 years ago. Some had lost their partners 6 months ago, a year, and for a variety of reasons, some that were incredibly traumatic, some that were unexpected like mine, and some were really prolonged illnesses that were heartbreaking. But we all had this common place together that whatever healing we were going to do, one, would be together, and two, would not have any sort of set timeline. That whatever you were feeling was completely fine at that time. If you didn't know how to pay your bills, right? If your partner did all that for you, that was okay. Let's work through that together. If you were the sole caretaker and your husband was unable to provide you with, you know, assistance doing anything, that was okay. Whatever your life looked like together, that was completely acceptable and welcomed here. And there was going to be somebody who could support you, knowing that everybody's journeys are different.
I think of my mom and you, and sometimes you don't realize, I watch it with my mother, what your spouse did. I mean, you know some of this stuff, but you don't realize everything they did until they're gone. And then you're like, oh, wow, I'm noticing all these things that aren't being done because my spouse did them.
For me, my husband was a neatnik, and my house was always clean. And now I find stuff sitting around.
Exactly.
And I also realized, I don't know if this happened to you, but I realized that there's some things that I did that irritated him. And now I realize they should have irritated him. Why did I do that?
Yes. In fact, it took me, I think, maybe 6 weeks to realize that my husband was the one who cleaned the apartment. Because at the 6-week mark, you realize, oh, this place is a pit. Why is that? This doesn't just magically happen, that the apartment gets magically cleaned when you show up at home. And small things, you know, the way you start out meetings was you say, I am so proud of myself for a particular reason. And it could be something very broad, or it could be something very specific. So one day I came in, I figured out how to change the gauge on the faucet and made the water pressure beautiful. And I walked into the W Connection meeting that day and I said, I am so proud of myself because I changed the water gauge on all of my faucets.
The advent of the internet, the W Connection is available online, right?
That's right. We do meetings once a week, Zoom support peer topic meetings in time zones all over the country, right? So we have something for everyone. And it's incredibly, incredibly helpful. Between the peer topic meetings, we have a book club, we have a wellness program. Really, COVID was a huge game changer for the organization and for me, because it, in this amazing way, really brought us much closer, because we had the time and we had the ability to spend more time and get to know each other in this way.
I know that you feel like the double connection really helped empower you and transform your grief. How did it do that?
So it starts by supporting us, right? It gives us the tools that we need and the support that we need and the people we need in our lives to work through the grief. I don't think you ever get through the grief. And for me personally, I feel as though if I ever gave up the grief, I would be giving up a huge part of me, right? Like there will always be the sadness of loss. And the organization really taught me that that's okay. It's not like you're clutching onto it. It just becomes part of your DNA, part of your soul.
What you missed about, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But what it did then was it asked me to look beyond myself. And I think being in service to other people in the best way that you can, based on your experience, is so important. It is so beyond everything that defines you, that it is enriching, and almost in a way it's selfish because it makes you feel so good. So they asked me if I would step up and volunteer for a few things, whether it was fundraising or activities or in the wellness program. And I realized that what had been given to me is something that I had to give back to others, because I was seeing them at the beginning of their struggle. And I know that from the beginning of their struggle to get where I am right now, it can only be because somebody else steps up and gives back. And they did. And I chose to do pretty much whatever they asked me to do, because it's such an important group of women for me. Having a partner is really wonderful. And it doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to look at it like this is my next life partner, the next part of my soul, right? It just has to be somebody that you just really enjoy being with.
Right.
So you're
I
right.
like that, Aliza. And you know what? It puts too much pressure on you if you're like, every guy I date once, is this the guy? I mean, rather than I'm going to go have fun and I'm going to enjoy their company and that's it. When my mother found her fiance, and she had no intention of even dating. She was just writing a book and wanted some research.
He was one of my chapters.
Yeah, he was one of she had no intention. He was one of the chapters, exactly. It was just, so it was fun. It took all the pressure off of it. It was fun and light and enjoyable.
So tell us how people can find the W Connection. And I know you're a gym volunteer. What does that
What does GEM mean? Yeah.
GEM is exactly what I was just talking about. Somebody who has experienced how this works and who is ready to move on to give back to others. And the W Connection is online. It's the wconnection.org, can be found on the World Wide Web. And certainly I would suggest to anybody who may even be just at the beginning stages of looking, please just check out the website, because there's so many great resources on there. And the timing may not be right for you yet to come to a meeting. I think everybody comes to that at a different time. I recently talked to a woman who's a little bit older than I am, but lost her husband in the very same way. And I spoke to her last week, and I suggested she take a look at the website. But what she really wanted was, she was just searching for other people who would say, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I understand. And I know she's been to the website, and I know at some point she'll find something that resonates, but it doesn't have to be 100% all at once. It can be in small bites, but it is a really great resource, especially when, at the beginning of this grieving process, you get so many books and so many reference guides and issues to people who have either experienced it or giving you a guideline for how to grieve. What the W Connection does really well is it just says, this is an open space, and we're here to listen, and we're here to support you in the way that you need.
I love this, Aliza. And I would think the hardest part about all this is going the first time, just taking that leap of faith to do it.
Yeah, it's not 100 people. It's, in the rooms, even in the Zoom rooms, everybody introduces themselves. Everybody gets a chance to speak. They ask you to keep your camera on and your mic on so that you can say something when you feel it, and so they can see how you're doing.
Thank you for all the work you're doing, and it's so great to see you again.
It's my pleasure, and thank you guys for putting something so personal, your journeys that are so personal. And because, you know, here we are, an entire family who has been through an enormous loss, and you are putting it out there in service to other people. I think that's really extraordinary. So thank you for inviting me here and for us being able to get to know each other and become friends.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Aliza. And thank you so much for being such an amazing example. Here you are, a young widow, losing the love of your life, and you have gone on to find hope again and now to support others. So thank you so much.
Really
Thank you.
impressive. Well, Heidi and I want to thank you all for joining the show today. And we always want to remind you that if you lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.